And Kaylee Hartung joins me now to talk about the more than 10 years that the national championship in college football has been decided not on the playing field, but by various polls, a process that seems to satisfy nobody but the people who win the poll. Well, the controversy has now made its way to Washington, and Kaylee is here with a report in this week's Unplugged Under 40. Kaylee?
Thanks, Bob. This week, the first round of bowl championship rankings were released, rankings that will be used to determine who will play for college football's national title. Now, some people say the way these rankings are determined is unfair, and that includes members of Congress. This week's Unplugged Under 40 takes a look at a young guy who's trying to rally members of Congress to change the system.
Meet Matt Sanderson. He's a 28-year-old Washington lawyer who helped launch Playoff PAC. This political action committee thinks the college football playing field isn't level and wants to do away with the bowl championship series.
Our slogan right now is beat the BCS, save college football, because we feel that the BCS is anti-competitive and arbitrary, and that it's necessary for the good of the entire sport, for all schools, fans, corporate sponsors, all people involved, to disband the BCS.
The BCS uses a combination of polls and computer formulas to determine who plays for the national title. Critics like Matt say the champion should be determined on the field, not by subjective measurements.
I'm a graduate of the University of Utah. We've gone undefeated twice now. And I'm not saying that we necessarily would have beaten Florida or Oklahoma or any other team last year, but it would have been great to see. And that's what this is about, is that it's having a competitive end to the postseason.
Playoff PAC doesn't have an explicit plan for a college football postseason quite yet. But there is one high-profile sports fan in Washington who does.
We should be creating a playoff system, 8 teams. That would be 3 rounds to determine a national champion. I don't know any serious fan of college football who has disagreed with me on this.
The BCS argues their formula is the fairest way to determine which teams are the strongest, even if their method is highly unpopular.
The fact of the matter is 85% of college football fans disapprove of the BCS. BCS officials have proven themselves completely unwilling to respond to the public, and the only voice that they've listened to in the past and that they'll listen to in the future is the people speaking through their elected representatives.
With 2 wars, a health care bill in the balance, and a sagging economy, Congress is already working overtime. And one Washington watchdog group says the politics of college football should not be played on Capitol Hill.
We have a $1.4 trillion deficit, a $12 trillion debt. This is the last thing Congress should be spending a second on at this point in time.
Representative Joe Barton recognizes Congress has more pressing issues, but he sees a place for college football in his legislative agenda.
It's something that a lot of people are concerned about. Just as I'm dealing with cap and trade and health care and telecommunications and net neutrality and the war in Afghanistan and the budget deficit, I think there needs to be some room to deal with some of the intercollegiate athletic issues, which we have jurisdiction over in my committee. And the BCS is one of those issues.
Football player turned Congressman Heath Shuler says reform is needed, but that now is not the time.
It's probably not an issue we should be spending our time on right now, but I think it's certainly something that should be visited, and we're really hoping the NCAA will be able to voice their opinion.
Matt Sanderson has met little political resistance to his effort, but he doesn't expect reform overnight.
America certainly has weightier issues to tackle. But even with everything else on Congress's plate, we think that we should expect our leaders to walk and chew gum at the same time.
And just yesterday, Senator Orrin Hatch, another Utah fan, sent a letter to President Obama requesting that the Justice Department look into the legality and fairness of the BCS. Bob, college football is a billion-dollar industry with millions of disgruntled fans.
Boy, isn't that the truth? Well, what are the big games we should be paying attention to this weekend, Kaylee?
Well, the only game between ranked opponents comes as TCU visits BYU. I think all eyes are going to be on number 8, undefeated TCU. If they can get past BYU, they just might make it to the school's first BCS bowl game. And if they do, I know that you'll be there to cheer them on.
You're absolutely correct about that, because that is my school. It may be one of the reasons we did this story today. Thanks, Kaylee.